Welcome all, Coleman Report Live, February 6, 2020, live from Denver. Lance Sexton and Chuck Evans. What's the weather like there, gentlemen?
Guys, it's really snow. It's very cool here, but speaking of cool, this is a very cool conference, America West Roadshow. The
Tell
cool
us
thing
about it.
all the events are occurring in an economic development agency building. The ratio of bankers to vendors and SBA officials is really neat. There are more bankers than anybody else at this conference. They've made it affordable. In the main session, Bob, they just asked, where are you from? I've never been the SBA lender who's furthest away from the conference, but today I was. There are a lot of Colorado bankers, Kansas bankers, Texas bankers that are here at this conference, and I think the way it's been set up is what's facilitated that. People who don't normally go, maybe the Naval, Mal, America East, they're here at this conference getting important SBA training. And we want to take you on a little tour and let you see what it's like, guys. So,
I'm all for
I
it.
think 75% of the community banks and lenders that are participating drove here. So it's local lenders, and it's a focus on education to those lenders that are doing 6 to 10 loans a year. And so our first breakout session that we're going to talk about is building your SBA department and staffing. So we're going to walk into that room and show you exactly what.
Looks like an Alfred Hitchcock movie. Are birds going to be landing on your shoulders, gentlemen? And shout out to Jennifer. Jennifer is our camera woman. And in this, we're running this off her iPad. So.
But you're on a webinar. Oh, all right. Very live.
Come on in.
And so as you're looking at that, so we're going to go take a look at another training session in place, Chuck.
Yeah, the second training session that we have here is utilizing the SBA's export program. And Davey Hoffman is the associate administrator. He's facilitating this. And the opportunities in utilizing the export program, I did not really realize were so good.
Well, you know, I'm a big fan of the expert program. We're going to talk about it a little bit later with Katie.
And live in person.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I'm a big fan. It's a 90% guarantee. It's the only guarantee SBA related where you get 90%. Hey, Chuck, while you're walking, okay, I'll let you describe what's going on. Awesome. Chuck, do we have any big news coming out of the event, and Lance?
Well, very new to the event because we're seeing what a great opportunity it is. We've talked about the rollovers on SBA 7A loans, but there's no significant news about that at this time. And the other thing we've talked a lot about is the release of the SOP, which we're all anxiously awaiting, and I think we all know it's going to happen before the end of February. But we just want to give you a glimpse of an amazing SBA lending conference. They have another one coming up in Salt Lake City, and then they're going to have a couple in California, Fresno, California, and then they're looking at going to Vegas, baby. So sign up for these conferences.
Lance, what's the price point? Chuck, what's the price point for these?
$349, and you can commute.
Awesome. Great. Well, very good. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for the update. I know that you two have to run, and but let's go. We're going to switch this up a little bit. We have a question from Ian Lance that we held over from last week, and basically it is, yeah. Basically,
I'll get to the question here. Okay.
Okay. We have a borrower who wants to do a principal reduction, call it 20 grand a year. How do we document it? What do we do logistically, Lance?
Well, you've got a borrower that's making, of course, a lot of this depends, Bob, on the original amount of the loan, but just making the $20,000 principal reduction doesn't really require any additional documentation. So give me a second, let me read this in. Offer a reduced guarantee based on a $20,000 principal reduction. That's going to require servicing action. Any change in the guarantor structure from the time it's submitted to SBA. So if it's a GP loan, that's when you send it to Citrus Heights. If it's a PLP or express loan, that's when you press submit and get an SBA number. Any change in the guarantor structure is going to require servicing action to be submitted to and approved by SBA. So in this case, if they're wanting to go, and I'm just assuming if they're wanting to go from a full guarantor to a limited guarantor, which the limited guarantee is the 148F, if they're wanting to make a change from full guarantee to limited guarantee, that is going to require a servicing action be submitted to either Fresno or Little Rock, whichever servicing center is taking care of you. And it's possible to get it approved with that $20,000 principal reduction. It just depends on what the loan size is. But you will have to do a servicing action and you will have to get it approved.
Very good. Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you very much for the update. Lance, I assume we'll see you next Thursday.
Hey, I look forward to it. Well, and we've got a great webinar next week on equity injection next Wednesday, guys. If you get a chance, sign up for it.
And that is our lead poll question. Joseph, pull them up. Thanks a lot, Lance and Chuck and Jennifer. Thank you all three of you. What do you think is the most significant cause for repair of an SBA guarantee? And obviously, all of these are correct in some way, but I think we've telegraphed pretty easily what we think it is. Yeah, very good. Katie, was that the most, I know you poured through that Inspector General report. Was that the most common theme that you read about?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily the most common, but it's one we're seeing over and over again. So it's probably, if it's not the most, it's probably the second most.
Right. And as we said, we're telegraphing Lance's webinar for next week, and that'll be next Wednesday at 2:00 Eastern. We always like to ask this question because I like to put it out there for the industry. I've heard a lot of good comments, lenders who can use lender match. They pick up some pretty decent deals. And okay, I would encourage you to look at that. They're making it much more user-friendly. They're putting in filters with respect to geography and loan amount and startups, et cetera, et cetera. The successful lenders that I know who do it, I have a dedicated person, and you don't have to do this every day. You can do this, a couple times a week. But I do know that at our BDO conference last year, one of those lenders got a seat at the table because they've become a lender match expert. So, as always, there's a lot of work in these, but every now and then you get a diamond in the rough. And finally, since we were talking about the size of the, I hate to use the term smaller lenders. I think Chuck said 6 to 10 deals a year. I'm just curious, for those of you who've dialed in, what is the size of your loan portfolio? All right, well, that's nice to know. I'm glad to see the 21%. I'm glad that you're taking advantage of this opportunity to increase your knowledge base. I want to talk, Joseph, I want to skip to the credit memo that I discussed last week. And look, here's the takeaway. SBA credit memos are different than your conventional credit memos, and you need to address some very specific SBA things. I do with the underwriting training. I give the students an option of doing a credit memo as opposed to the exam. The one I got was very well done. Just a couple of comments. Number one, the primary repayment source is cash flow from the company, not the guarantors. That's sort of picky. But you need to pay attention. I would go back to the 5 C's. I personally like to be romanced. And what I mean by that is, give me a couple of paragraphs on why this is a great company. Every company has a unique story to tell. This is a company, aerospace, based on when I started banking. A gentleman out of World War II, 1946, started his company. And this is now a 3rd generation company. And I think we need to address that you have the 3 grandkids now marketing manager, the CFO, and the tinkerer, as I call them, the one who's under the hood designing this stuff. Also, there is a risk in this loan that they supply stuff for NASA, for the Orion space mission. And if they make a mistake, the company's going to go down. So I think you need to address that and say, yeah, we understand there's a risk, but we now have a third generation tinkerer. They've been doing this stuff for 70 years. They know what they're doing. And I would address that because, as I've said, when you do these credit memos, you're writing it for 17 different people. And one of them obviously is the SBA Inspector General. And if this loan defaults, which it could if something blows up, you need to say, hey, we looked at this, but as a prudent lender, we feel the risk is acceptable. And I would put that right in the credit memo. They've had these contracts with NASA for 50 years. They've always fulfilled them. They have, they're not on any SAM award list. They know what they're doing. They're small. They're hands-on. So I would address that and say, yeah, it's an issue, but we're doing it. Also, make sure that you do a collateral analysis. And with SBA, if there's a collateral shortfall, you need to be specific about life insurance. That's unique for SBA lending. So anyway, good job. I know every lender has their own format, and I thought this person did a good job, and she knows who she is. And I'm not going to name her name because that's privileged. Let's go, Katie. Let's turn to you. Tell us what's going on. I love the fact that Chuck said something about exporting. What's going on with the USMCA?
Well, as we've all heard in the news recently, the USMCA just passed, and you're already starting to see lending institutions get some benefits from this. You're just seeing an influx in more SBA and USDA loans, especially in apparently Iowa, is one of the largest trade partners with Mexico. And so you're seeing especially corn and things like that are going to Mexico. But not only corn and products, but they're also working on building roads right now. So all of those roads that are going between Iowa and these other, let's see, Nebraska, Missouri, Kansas, all of these places are going to be doing a lot of trade now with Mexico and hopefully Canada once Trudeau signs this. So once we get these roads in, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for small businesses to open along these roadsides as well. So you're going to see an influx there as well.
Great. Well, and remember, I said earlier, 90% guarantee. And SBA is not specific on a standard of what percentage of your company is for exports. Now, that doesn't mean you sell, I sold to a franchise a couple years ago in Canada, so I guess I'm an exporter somehow. Obviously, one sale isn't going to do it. But if you have a company where they want to start exporting their product, I've been to Iowa, a lot of cattle, a lot of corn. It's very, very rural. And if they want to expand to export, that's eligible. Also, you have some very, very good partners with SBA that they have their export centers and use them. So it's not rigid. They're not saying we need X percent of sales. You just need to make a claim for it. But I got to tell you that 90% guarantee looks awfully attractive. SBA secondary market update. It's there. Loan pools are up. People are using it, and I'm not going to read through this. And
right. I mean, the only thing that I think the people on this call need to know is that the SBA is giving us these stats right now, but the year-to-date stats are going to be slightly skewed because we had a government shutdown last year, so that's just going to adjust it slightly. It's not a big deal. I forgot about that.
You mentioned it. We all forgot. At least I forgot about it. Yeah. Let's see. And we have Main Street Monday. Katie, you're talking about, what are we talking about?
So this last week, our other editor, Mary, wrote about Money Smart for Small Business, which is a program that the SBA and FDIC puts out. And they recently updated 2 modules, the banking services module, which they added a section now in that about avoiding fraud schemes, which we hear about every week in my articles and on the show. So that's, I think, something important. And they also added to the building strong credit module, which helps them understand how banks and lenders determine credit worthiness, which I think is very helpful for them as well.
Yeah, I would take advantage of that. Katie, you mentioned fraud. I get this question all the time, and I know you've been doing this for a while now. Not fraud, reporting on fraud. But what is the end game for these people? How do they think they're going to get away with it?
Right. We were talking about this just before the show, and I was kind of thinking about it. You know, and we were saying that they do start small. They're starting with, in this particular case that I'm just going to talk about in a little bit, he started out with just fraud against his business partner, a contracted business, and then it slowly escalated until he was requesting loans. And I think they just kind of lose track of it and think they can get away with one thing, so they'll get away with another.
Yeah, I've always said they think they're the smartest. My theory is they always think they're the smartest person in the room. That's sort of what I think. Hey, be sure and take advantage of the compensation survey. We have, I think we've had our best year ever in terms of people responding. Joseph, when are we cutting this off next week? Yeah, 14th. February 14th, Valentine's Day. And my promise to you is if you give me your particular category, we will send you that report for free. And then, of course, it's no secret, I then bundle these up and sell them to the industry as a whole. It's a pretty good source of data. But if you're a loan closer, loan packager, fill it out, and you will get that report for free. We will not charge you. So be sure and get that in by next Friday. Lance gave a pitch for his webinar, and equity injection is always a hot topic. I will be doing one the following week on construction, 7A and 504. And then because of the issues we've been talking about, we'll have the collateral requirements webinar as well. Hopefully, on that one, hopefully we'll have the new SOP out. We don't expect too many changes on that, more technical, the big changes in terms of credit elsewhere and affiliation. I understand will not be in this update. And with that, we're looking, obviously, we're always looking for sponsorship opportunities. Get a hold of us. Katie, thank you for joining us. Everyone have a nice weekend. See you next week.
See ya.